Coming up, Republicans say they're opposed to the individual mandate President Obama's health care reform has in it, but a lot of them were for it before he was. Now they're against it. In fact, it was their idea. Romney, Gingrich, even Demint himself, they're all against it now, but they're all for it. The Republicans' health care plan now with the Obama label on it. Prominent Republicans were actually for the health insurance mandate, just like the president, before they were against it. Here to discuss this great Republican flip-flop, our Democratic Congressman Robert Andrews of New Jersey and MSNBC contributor Ezra Klein, who's also the domestic policy columnist for the Washington Post. Congressman, let me ask you about this thing. It's stunning to me. After doing all the research our producers did, I didn't know this, but people like Lindsey Graham, Orrin Hatch, Grassley, Newt Gingrich, Romney, Bill Frist, all of these top Republican guys, senators at the highest level of those committees, who were chairs of all those committees, were all for pretty much requiring people to go out and buy health care if they can afford it and paying to the amount they can afford so the government and the hospitals don't have to pay it. That sounds like a Republican solution. Now they're all running from it and calling the president a socialist.
Well, you know, look, their opposition for the longest time has had nothing to do with public policy and everything to do with this antipathy toward Barack Obama. His health care bill that we enacted had a lot of ideas that Republicans had long supported and initiated. I heard that clip you played from Newt Gingrich early in the show. Yes. Where he said he wanted a voucher system where people could buy private health insurance with an individual mandate. Thank you, Newt, for describing the health care bill the president signed in March of 2010. You know, look, their main reason to be against the bill was they want to defeat the president in the next election. They're not going to be able to.
Yeah, let me go back to Ezra on that. Ezra, analyze this. What is it? When did they begin their flip-flop against the idea of individual responsibility, which is the way we run our country, free enterprise and personal? You have to buy your own car. The government doesn't buy your car. You have to buy your own insurance. The government doesn't buy it. And here you have the president saying, you've got to get your own insurance. And they're saying, yeah, that was a good Republican idea. Nixon was for the employer mandate. The employer had to pay for it. Your thoughts?
It's crucial to realize that the flip came very late. It wasn't like it happened in 97 or 98 or 2004 or even 2005. Wyden Bennett, which was this big bill with Ron Wyden and Bob Bennett and had 8 or 9 Republican co-sponsors, had an individual mandate. As late as June of 2009, Chuck Grassley was saying there is bipartisan support for an individual mandate. Then Olympia Snowe voted for an individual mandate in the Senate finance bill. And the part of it, Chris, that I find most sort of appalling, it's one thing to turn against a bill to say, listen, I don't like the whole bill. I don't like the way you structured your mandate. But then every one of these guys, Bob Bennett, Grassley, Snowe, they voted for resolutions saying the individual mandate, which they had co-sponsored before, was unconstitutional. Yeah. So
it's the Tea Party.
To answer the question of when they turned on it, they turned on it when the president passed it into law, but not that long before that.
Well, here, Congressman Andrew, go ahead, Congressman. Yeah, let me show this to you first, because I think this guy's to your right. I think Jim Demint of South Carolina is to the right of just about everybody. Here he is, Senator Jim Demint of South Carolina. He's been a vocal opponent of the health care reform bill, but he praised Mitt Romney's health care overhaul in Massachusetts, which included an individual mandate. Check out what Demint said back in 2007 when asked about Romney's health care plan. Let's listen to Senator Demint.
He was able to, without raising taxes, make sure that everybody in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts wound up with health insurance. Real briefly, can you explain how he did that and whether or not that might be something he'd take coast to coast?
Well, that's something that I think we should do for the whole country.
Somebody should straighten out Steve Ducey on this baby, too. Anyway, 2 years ago, Republican Senator Chuck Grassley of Ohio said, I believe that there is a bipartisan consensus to have, here it is, individual mandates. Yeah. Republican support for a health care mandate has its roots in a proposal by the conservative Heritage Foundation that was meant as an alternative to the single-payer or the Canadian-style system. The Heritage Foundation's plan said all heads of households would be required by law to obtain at least a basic health plan specified by Congress. Congressman, doesn't this just spin your head that they're so 180 on this now?
Well, Senator Grassley was right. There was a bipartisan consensus for this kind of moderate health care reform. but he got intimidated and frightened by the right wing of his party into backing out of it, as did all the other people that you just mentioned. The Republican Party has gone from dishonesty to incoherence on this issue. You know, the two leading candidates for the Republican presidential nomination, Mitt Romney, did Obamacare in Massachusetts. Newt Gingrich, in that, despite the hostage video you showed earlier of him today, supports the individual mandate. So they're all running in an electorate that's 80-20 against the Obama, probably 98-2 against the Obama plan, but they're all actually for it. So they've gone from intellectual dishonesty to incoherence, as far as I can tell.
Let's take a look. The hostage tape, obviously, is the one you referred to as today, where he was in captivity and told to say what he had to say to the far-right Tea Party people. Here he is, just as a reminder, here he is back in '93 when he was thoughtful about it. This is where he supported the mandate. Let's watch him. They dug this up on Meet the Press yesterday and threw it at him, and he was thrown for a loop. Here he is. Let's listen.
I am for people, individuals, exactly like automobile insurance, individuals having health insurance and being required to have health insurance, and I am prepared to vote for a voucher system which will give individuals on a sliding scale a government subsidy so we ensure that everyone as individuals have health insurance.
Well, that's back when they said automobiles.
Yeah.
So it's a while ago, obviously, but what the heck? Everybody pronounces things their own way. But here he is clearly saying, he likes the idea of people being responsible for their own health insurance.
That doesn't sound very food stamp or Detroit to me. You know, it sounds rather Texas. I mean, look, he's incoherent because he hasn't found a place to fit into the Republican Party right now. Mitt Romney, I think, is trying to say as little as possible because he actually agrees with, in substance, the bill that we enacted last year.
You know, he reminds me of the character in Arsenic Old Lace running up and down the stairway with his sword drawn like he's Teddy Roosevelt at the Battle of San Juan Hill. Newt is so out of it. Anyway, thank you, Congressman Bob Andrews. Rob Andrews of New Jersey, from right near Philly. And Ezra Klein, as always.